You know, when you think about some of the most pivotal moments in history, the arrest of Jesus has to be right up there. And at its heart is a huge paradox. Here's a man who, by his own account, could summon armies of angels, and yet he just surrenders. Today we're going to dig into the source's interpretation of this moment, of his trial, and try to uncover the hidden meaning behind his incredible silence.
So, let's just jump right into the central mystery here. It really boils down to this one question: why? On the night he's arrested, Jesus flat out says he could call down an army of angels, but he doesn't. He surrenders without a fight. So why would someone with what he claimed was infinite power choose not to use it? It's a real head-scratcher. And that paradox? Well, that's the key to this whole explainer.
Okay, so where do we start? Our first clue is waiting for us in the Garden of Gethsemane. And let me tell you, the scene is just pure chaos. It's dark, it's tense, it's filled with betrayal. But it's Jesus' reaction in the middle of all this madness that gives us the first key to unlocking this whole riddle of his surrender.
I mean, try to picture this for a second. It's the middle of the night, and suddenly a crowd shows up, armed with swords and clubs. And who leads them? Judas, one of his own guys, one of his inner circle, who betrays him with a kiss. Then, in a flash of what seems like loyalty, Peter whips out a sword and attacks, slicing off a servant's ear. But Jesus, instead of leading a counterattack, he immediately shuts down the violence. And then, right in that critical moment, all his disciples just bail on him. They flee.
And this is where the contradiction just smacks you in the face. On one hand, you have Jesus saying he's got this incredible power on speed dial, more than 12 legions of angels. We're talking tens of thousands of soldiers here. But what does he actually do? The complete opposite. He doesn't fight back, he actually heals the guy who came to arrest him, and he scolds his own friend for trying to defend him. See, this isn't weakness, this is something else. It's a deliberate and honestly a pretty powerful choice.
So the question is, why? Why make that choice? Well, that leads us right to our next clue. According to the source material, Jesus' actions, they weren't just a reaction to what was happening. It's like he was playing a part in a play that had been written a long, long time ago. He was actively fulfilling an ancient script, a prophecy set in motion centuries earlier.
I get this. He basically says so himself. Right there in the middle of all the chaos, the betrayal, the swords, the fear, he says that all of it, every last detail, is happening for one reason, so that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. For him, this wasn't some tragic accident. He saw his arrest as a totally necessary, pre-planned step in a much, much bigger story.
And when you look at the source, you can see how these events weren't random at all. They line up almost perfectly with specific prophecies from the Old Testament. Betrayal by a close friend? Check. That's in Psalm 41. Getting struck and spit on? Yep, described in Isaiah 50. And the big one? His silence in front of the people accusing him? That's spelled out right there in Isaiah 53. So you see, he wasn't just being quiet. It was like he was performing the scripture live.
Okay, let's shift scenes now. We're moving to the high priest's court. And this is where things get even more intense. Because here, Jesus' very deliberate, very calculated silence is put side by side with the panicked denials of his number one disciple, Peter. It's like a split-screen drama, a tale of two testimonies happening at the exact same time.
So they've been parading in a bunch of false witnesses and nothing's sticking. Finally, the high priest gets fed up and puts Jesus under oath. He demands point blank, "Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Now remember, Jesus has been completely silent this whole time, not saying a word to defend himself. But now, when his actual identity is on the line, he breaks his silence. And his answer is simple, but so powerful. "You have said so."
Okay, now picture this. At the very same moment this is happening inside, Peter is outside in the courtyard facing his own kind of trial. A servant girl points him out. "Hey, you were with that Jesus guy." But Peter, totally terrified, denies it. And not just once, he denies it 3 times, eventually cursing and swearing, "I don't know the man." It's just a complete and total disavowal.
Wow, I mean, the contrast here is just staggering, right? You've got two men, both under immense pressure. One, Jesus, is facing certain death, and he stands firm and affirms who he is. The other, Peter, is just afraid of being associated with him, and he completely crumbles, denying everything. The result? Jesus' confession gets him a death sentence, Peter's denial gets him a moment of safety, and then a lifetime of bitter regret. It's just such a powerful and honestly a tragic comparison. So all of this brings us to the real heart of the matter, to the core lesson the source pulls from these events. Why would anyone go through all this, the betrayal, the false accusations, the death sentence, without fighting back? The answer, according to our source, lies in a really interesting concept it calls appointed suffering.
So, appointed suffering, what does that even mean? Well, the basic idea is that sometimes the tough stuff we go through isn't just random bad luck. It's actually allowed to happen for a very specific, often much bigger purpose. And if that's the case, the goal isn't to just escape it as fast as you can. The goal is to endure it, to trust that there's a larger plan at work. And this is the exact lens the source uses to understand everything Jesus went through.
And the source breaks this down into a really clear 3-step model, all based on what Jesus did. Step 1, appeal. Before the suffering starts, before the arrest, Jesus prays in the garden, basically asking, is there any other way? Step 2, endure. The moment the guards show up and the suffering begins, his posture shifts completely. Now he endures it, trusting that this is God's will. And finally, step 3, allow. He allows the suffering to fulfill its purpose, which in his case meant fulfilling those ancient prophecies and finishing his mission.
You know, this wasn't some one-time idea that only applied to him. The source points to other moments too. Take the story of the man born blind. His followers immediately assume, okay, who sinned, him or his parents? They see his suffering as a punishment. But Jesus completely reframes it. He says, no, it was so that the works of God might be displayed in him. It's a huge shift in perspective. He turns suffering from a punishment into a platform. And so, this whole explainer leaves us with a final and pretty challenging question. If we were to look at our own hardships through this lens, not as random bad luck, but as something that might have an appointed purpose, how would that change how we react to it? It could shift our focus from asking, why is this happening to me, to maybe asking, what is the purpose in this? Now, that doesn't make the pain go away, of course, but it could totally transform our relationship with it. And that, well, that's a really powerful idea to think about.